The Green City Growers Program is a way that the city can identify land that we own, that can be, whether we own it or we manage it, that we can make sure there's access to water, that there's plenty of sun, and that there's the conditions through which a garden can grow and thrive. And that's when our partners come in, and you're going to hear from the Executive Director of Wasatch Community Gardens, Georgina Griffith-Yates, today, and our wonderful City Council, who ultimately helped approve the funding to make this garden happen. But let this beautiful space be a call out to communities across Salt Lake City who might have some similar piece of land in their neighborhoods and want more gardening space and mostly community building space, to reach out through the Green City Growers Program with Salt Lake City. I know that a lot of people will benefit from this space, and obviously already are. There's some really nice tomatoes and squash and peppers happening here, but there's so much more that grows in a garden. And I want to share quickly that I raised my boys, my oldest two, in a garden that my neighbor and I, when I lived just across the street here, we gardened a patch of land near the zoo that people weren't taking care of, and they didn't mind if we gardened it. And we planted 120 tomatoes every year, and potatoes and corn, and there is something so special about your kid growing up with a raw ear of corn in one hand and a tomato in the other as their snack. And those are sweet memories for my family. And that's something, a connection with food and a connection with this planet that makes an influence, I think, on the rest of our lives. There is something innately human about gardening. We've been doing it for millennia. And as urban city dwellers in modern times today, I think that opportunities like this to put our hands in the earth, to make something, give something the chance to grow, and then to benefit from the beauty or the food of it, but also the community that surrounds it, is one of the best things that we can do to feed our own souls today. So thank you to this neighborhood for coming together, for putting together a Green City Growers application. Thank you to the Salt Lake City team with our Parks and Public Lands Department and our partners at Wasatch Community Gardens. Please, Salt Lakers, find more pieces of land like this and make some more beauty and community grow. I'm going to turn the time over to Councilmember Darin Mano. He'll be followed by Georgina, and then we'll get to hear from two of our neighborhood gardeners.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I'm excited to be part of this celebration, to be here to celebrate the opening of this new community garden. Wasatch Community Gardens has always been a great partner with the city. And I have to make a little, admit something here. I have whatever the opposite of a green thumb is, that's what I have. So I'm in awe of people who are able to grow food out of the ground. My father was a pretty good gardener, and he would he had big raspberry bushes and a big garden his whole when I was growing up, but I was never given that skill. So I'm in awe of all the things I'm seeing growing. And I've been very impressed with Wasatch Community Gardens and their eagerness and the things that they do for our community. Of course, gardening itself is important, and as the mayor mentioned, it's a innately human and natural thing that we as a species do. But I think of city council and city government and my role as from a more of an urban perspective, and I think Wasatch Community Gardens is equally important in the way that it brings our community together. It takes disused spaces, public lands, parts of the community that don't have other great ways to be used, like a park strip next to 7th East, next to a busy commuter road. Something that's maybe a little bit noisy, hard for certain uses to take place, something that we also often don't have a lot of funding to improve. And Wasatch Community Gardens comes in and makes something beautiful out of it, something nutritious out of the land. And I think that is what gets me the most excited about seeing something like this, is what it adds to our community. Just the beauty and the connection between the different neighbors and the gardeners. I had the benefit of campaigning last year and knocking a lot of doors in this neighborhood. And almost without fail, when I knocked a door within a few blocks of here, they asked, are you going to fund that community garden? And it's not often that we as a city council can pull a project off of the cutting room floor. So if you know the history, this was not recommended for funding by the CDCIP board and the board that recommends which projects we fund. There's a little bit of leeway once it gets to the city council, but not a ton. So it's really actually pretty hard for us to pull one of those projects off of the ground and fund it. But there was so much energy and so much Wasatch Community Gardens and then Executive Director Ashley Patterson was really involved in making sure that people came to the city council and advocated for this project. And I'm so happy that we were able to do it and that it's become what it is today so quickly. The last community garden that in Salt Lake City that was completed was in District 4. And this one in District 5 is great because District 5 has a relatively high population density, and we need spaces like this to bring our community together. There's another one very similar to this, the Liberty Wells Garden, just a little further south. And I think that these are models for how we can, again, use these spaces that, as an urban design nerd, I look at things like 7th East and think, wow, it's really kind of unfortunate how big and busy and loud of a road we have, and this great land that is being disused. So I'm grateful for the Wasatch Community Gardens for coming up with these ideas and using the space this way. One of the things I'm really excited about is that these gardens have U-picket boxes, which are located around the perimeter of the garden. Anyone that passes by can take produce for free. So it's not just the gardeners themselves that are benefiting from this, but it's really the community as a whole. So thank you for coming out today. Please enjoy this incredible space with us. And I know that I will be visiting often, and I'm excited to see my neighbors and the rest of the community here. Thank you. And I think it's Georgina, right?
Thank you so much, Darin. We have some weeds if you want a green thumb fast. Like, you come over to our campus down the street. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today to celebrate the opening of this beautiful garden. We are so thrilled to be here. We actually have had 2 community gardens opened this week, which is a little unprecedented for WCG. Our first one was open on Monday at Fitz Park in South Salt Lake, and so I encourage you to take a tour and visit that as well. This now is our 18th community garden for Wasatch Community Gardens, and we are so excited to be able to not only have another space that we can beautify and make productive, but it's one that, I've had a lot of people, I've been in this job for a year, say, hey, you're that garden on 7th, right? And so, yes, we are now. And it's so awesome to have not only a new garden, but a garden that has so much traffic by it, both vehicles and foot traffic, to be able to take part of understanding what we're doing here and maybe signing up for their own garden plot, and also reaping the benefits from our U-pick garden on the perimeter of the fence, which we have at the majority of our community gardens. Our community garden program is one of 4 programs at Wasatch Community Gardens. Our mission is to empower people to grow and eat local, healthy, organic food. And last year, our gardens produced 26 tons of produce. That's among 530 families, 62% of which are from low to moderate income households. And when I say a number like 26 tons, what my brain does is just shuts down because I can't fathom 26 tons. But if you really think about 26 tons of food for 530 families, that's not just going to those households. It's going to their neighbors. It's going to their community. It's being dropped off on the boxes for individuals to walk by when there's excess produce to collect. A community garden feeds just that, a community. So I'm grateful to have another place to do that. We could not have opened this location without the help of so many, and so I would like to thank those. First, of course, our 30 community gardeners and the community surrounding Harrison Garden. This took root because a lot of people pounded a lot of pavement, and then took that and turned around and told people like Darin, we want that there, and that's what we want to hear from our community. Our model is to have community gardens that are very supported by the community they're in. We don't want to put a garden anywhere that the community isn't behind. And so having this neighborhood be so excited about this garden was critical to its success. You knocked on doors, you staffed farmers markets, booths, you generated support for the garden, you went to design meetings that I know were so fun. So thank you so much to doing that all the way down to getting into the dirt and constructing those boxes back in April so that we could be here today and not only have boxes with dirt in them, but boxes with dirt and beautiful soil and plants that are blooming and growing. I would like to thank the city as well, our mayor, Darin Mano, of course, Mark Morris, our landscape architect, who helped design this and many of our community gardens. The Harrison Garden organizers, of course, for attending council meetings, making statements in support of the CIP funding. It was so exciting when we found out that came through. That was my second month working here, and it was a high like none other, and a great way to start my time here. This community garden and around the garden has helped 60 plus garden boxes here. And looking around, you can see how well they are used. I'd like to thank the organizers who held multiple booths at Liberty Park, as well as gathering signatures. If you've gone out and gathered signatures before, which I know some people have behind me, but it's a task, and talking to people can be scary, and I'm grateful for those individuals who believed in what we were trying to accomplish here. Jake with Stratton and Bratt oversaw the construction for the garden, and because of their hard work, we were able to actually open in time for spring planting. And of course, special thanks to the organizers, Brett, Allison, Becca, Randy, Maddie, and Nichole. I can't go without thanking the Wasatch Community Gardens team. We are a team of 3, and that is a small but very mighty team for all of our community gardens that, again, produce 26 tons of produce for our community. Thank you so much for being here today, for taking the time to come up to a place like this in the morning. I always love starting my day in the garden. There's nothing like it. To celebrate coming together as community and leaning on each other to find beauty in the land that we have here in the city, and taking what we do here and sharing it with the greater community. So thank you so much.
Good morning, all. My name's Nichole Farley, and I'm one of the organizers that helped put this beautiful garden together. And I'm just going to tell you a little story about how I became involved. I moved to Salt Lake City in the fall of 2020, not knowing a soul in this city, but very excited to get here and get involved in the community. And one of the first opportunities I had was while walking through Sugar House Park, I saw a community garden space. And as an agriculture major in my undergraduate years a very long time ago, I've always had a passion for growing my own vegetables, for teaching people about agriculture and where our produce comes from. Sometimes it's a misnomer when you hear kids in the grocery store talking about their food coming from the grocery store. And it breaks my heart that they don't understand that it actually comes from the ground and that they can get involved in that. So with that, I got online to the Wasatch Community Garden and signed up for a space at the Sugar House Gardens. Unfortunately, the Sugar House Garden has a really long wait list, but fortunately for Harrison Garden here, they needed volunteers to get behind forming the garden. And simple email, and I had my hand in the air ready to organize and get this thing started. So in the spring of 2021, our organizing committee got together with Wasatch Community Gardens and started to fill out the application process to petition the city for the funding. It was my first sense of community within Salt Lake City. They were the first people that I really became close with, and just my first chance of giving back to the community when I was working remote and didn't have an opportunity to engage in an office space, to meet my colleagues hand in hand. So I really appreciated the time that we had online and virtual in planning this space. It was a treat to get online and do public comment to the council members, asking them to fund this project. I have done a lot of public policy work in my day, advocating for funds to certain projects from City Council, and this was the first time I was able to do that from a personal space, from a community space, and an opportunity to create a place and a sense of community for the neighborhood. So I take that with me with honor and with pride as I move forward. When the community garden opened up this year, right before Mother's Day and the cold snap that we had, we were able to get together and to start to plan and to celebrate what our community garden will look like. And it's not done. You see lots of green and you see lots of vegetables growing behind me, but we're still working towards creating a place for the community to gather. We have picnic tables on the way. We have coffees in the morning with our community and with the fellow gardeners to come and enjoy and get to know one another. So beyond creating a space for, that was grass, that is now a garden, we're creating and building a sense of community that will expand beyond the gates that you see here and reach far into the neighborhoods and to Salt Lake City. So with that, I am very happy to be here. I would like to thank Mayor Mendenhall and the City Council for funding this project, Wasatch Garden, for believing in our little group, seeing a space that we could utilize, and then helping guide our organizing committee through the process to create what we're standing here today. And I look forward to the future as we continue to build this space and to build our community through the Wasatch Community Garden here at Harrison. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brett Markum, and these are some tough acts to follow. This is not really my forte, so be patient with me. So my wife and I, we moved into a home adjacent to the garden in 1997, that one to be precise. And when we first moved in 97, I was somewhat enamored with this long swath of grass behind our home. It provided kind of a nice buffer zone between us and 7th East. As time went on, however, I started to realize that, this swath of grass didn't really do much. The only real purpose it served was, once a year on the 24th of July, people would come over here and watch fireworks. But other than that, Salt Lake City, parks would send their mow crews and water it, and it just didn't really do a lot. I started to pursue the idea of maybe we could purchase this property. Maybe I could extend my fence line and have a little more property. So I reached out to Salt Lake City and discovered that actually they aren't the owner of the property, that it's actually owned by another state agency. So I started pursuing the possibility of purchasing it from that state agency and kind of ran into a long dead-end road. Let's see, shortly after that, got to check some notes here. We started to have some other issues back here, just some things with unauthorized camping and some other shenanigans going on back here. And it was around that time that I reached out to then Councilwoman Mendenhall, and she proposed the idea of a community garden. And I thought, wow, that's a brilliant idea. You should be mayor someday. So I, hassled Mayor Mendenhall quite a bit about the idea of a garden. And once I got on the track of, pursuing the garden application, then I got to start hassling Wasatch Community Gardens and specifically Van Hoover. After a long road, eventually, this project came to fruition, and I'm just so pleased that we have a better use of land back here and that I don't have additional grass to mow and water. So thank you, everybody, for supporting this project.